Okay then, so in the previous video we created this really simple workflow, but I just want to talk a little bit about the anatomy of a node. I just want to delve a little bit deeper behind the scenes of a node, just so it helps you understand a little bit more about how they're working from the inside. And then there's certain parts of it that will really support your learning in terms of working with nodes in the future. Certainly whether you're generating them by AI or created them yourself, or you're pulling them from the preset nodes that are within inside a BuildShip. So let's have a closer look at the calculator node then. If I just click on this little icon up here, let's open up a little bit and move into the node editor. Now we know we've already seen this before. This is the code that is generated by this actual node itself. And of course, if you was using AI, then AI would be generating your node with code inside. So if we look at this and look at the relationship that this area on the left hand side has, so this is kind of like a bit of a preview to kind of the input parameters that we've got into this node. So we know we've got the first number operation and second node. And if you look at the code here, you can kind of see I've got 1, 2, 3 input parameters, and this kind of sits nicely up the top here. I've got 1, 2, 3, but you're probably thinking, well, where does the A and the B come from? I understand a bit about the operation, but where does A and B come from? And if we now jump to the next tab here, the inputs, you can see now that you're seeing a kind of a preview here. You're seeing the setup of the node here on the right hand side, and then you're seeing kind of how it kind of shapes up that you would typically use with inside the workflow itself. So we've got the first number operation and second number, but if you look here, the first number has a key of A, the second number has a key of B, and of course operation has a lowercase operation. Now if I flick back over to the code, you can see that I've got me A, B and operation. So you can see I've got my input values there at the top, and of course I can reference those then within the actual code itself. Now of course if you're a coder, you probably understand all this stuff, but if you're not, I just wanted to set the scene in this particular section. So just going back to the inputs then, so we know that the first number here is of type number, so we know that we're kind of restricting this particular node input value to be a number. Now here we've got some additional properties that we can set here, like whether it's required or it's sensitive data or validation. You can use a regular expression if you would like and give it a default value. These are all the characteristics of the input of this particular node, and of course however you set it up here will then play out within inside the workflow editor itself. Now with operation it's slightly different, because operation has a kind of a type of a select, and the great thing about the kind of the IDE within inside BuildShip is that it's given the ability to add in these labels and these actual values itself. So it's kind of like hard coding in the values that will then be used within inside the actual code itself. And if I flick back over to the code, you'll kind of see where the operation up here is now looking for the add, subtract and multiply and divide. You can kind of see how they kind of hook nicely together. So that's pretty well much it. You can obviously add more in here if you need to, but as you start developing either your own nodes to add into your My Library, so you can kind of build these things up, these reusable nodes that you can use in your own application, then of course hopefully that will paint a bit of a picture kind of how the setup of these nodes are. Now when we look at the output, we know this is really just simply returning back a numeric value. So here it's quite straightforward in the way that it's kind of shaping up the output. I'm not going to delve too much here, but it's really just kind of showing that we have a number as a result of this particular node. But as you delve into the output of other nodes, whether they're ones that's AI generated or the ones that come pre-built with inside the BuildShip platform, you'll see here the output will likely look somewhat different. So that's pretty well much it. I mean, there's not really much more to sort of talk to you about in here at this particular stage. If you would like to look at this more from a kind of like a more of a JSON kind of view, where you can kind of come in here and you can kind of make changes by just kind of typing at the keyboard, then you've got that option here. But of course, I like to kind of do everything from a more visual perspective because I'm that kind of person. So this makes it really easy for me to kind of build up the kind of the anatomy of the node. So hopefully that's useful. Hopefully that sets the scene for you to now then move onwards in understanding a little bit more about nodes. So let's now move on to the next video.